Okay, so I've had a request from my beginner crochet class to make sure I do a video of our bonus project, which is the very simple basic granny square. There's a few notes that we just need to think about when we are doing our granny square for this particular pattern. Our beginning chains count as stitches. Our chain 4 at the beginning of the row counts as a double crochet and a chain 2 space. And our 3 double crochet clusters are worked into the chain spaces of the row below. Now, as a beginner, this might not make sense to you just yet, but it will once we start getting into things, and I'll keep reminding you about these. We're going to follow a symbol pattern, and in this pattern we've got slip stitch, chains, double crochet. If you are a complete beginner and you're not used to working with things, maybe just do everything in one colour. However, if you do want a challenge later on, after we get past row 3, we're going to do a bit of a colour change there so that we've got a different colour in row 4. So with the granny square, even though it's a square shape, the technique we use to create it is working in the round. And so because of that, we know we need to work from the centre outwards. So our first foundation to get started are our 4 chains. So we've got 1, 2, 3, 4. That's what these symbols are representing. And there's a little black dot here, which is our slip stitch. So we're going to do that now. 1, 2, 3, 4. Let me just move that pattern. So we've got our 4 chains. I'm not going to show you how to do the stitches in this pattern because I'm going to make the assumption that you already know how to do those based on attending my courses or seeing some of the other videos that I have set up. So we've done our 4 chains, and now to create the circle that we're going to work into, we're going to go to that very first chain that we created, put our hook in, yarn over, pull through the chain, and then pull through the loop on our hook. So that creates a bit of a circle here. Now when you kind of adjust it and kind of stretch it out a bit, you'll see that there's kind of 2 holes happening. And you may be thinking, well, which hole am I going to work into? So I'm just going to take you through that. So if you see here, you can see my yarn moving. That's going in and out of this hole here. And that hole there was the chain that we worked into to join the 2 ends together. So we're not going to be working into that one. We're going to be working into this other hole, which, as you can see, with only 4 chains, it's only kind of a small hole. So what I'm going to do, just to make it easy as a beginner, we're just going to put a slip stitch in there. That way we know wherever the slip stitch is, that's where our stitches for the next row are going to go. So now if we go back to our pattern, we've got 1, 2, 3, 4 chains. We're going to do that now. Now the 4 chains, you remember our notes say the chain 4 at the beginning of the row counts as a DC, a double crochet, and a chain 2 space. So that's what we're creating now. So we're doing 1, 2, 3, 4. And I'm just going to put a slip stitch at the top of that chain. And there's a few different reasons that we do that, which I'll talk about as we go. So the next part of our pattern is telling us to do 3 double crochet into the hole that we created at the beginning. So I'm not going to show you how to do the DC. This is where my stitch marker is. So that's the hole that I need to go into, which is that one there. And I'm going to do 3 in there. 1, 2, 3. Just take your time with those stitches. You may find it a bit awkward, sort of holding onto the circle as you go. So just take your time and then just keep double checking that you're going into the right space, which is where that stitch marker is. So if I now put my work over top of the pattern, this is why I love symbol patterns, I can see that it's all fitting on top. Now obviously the type of yarn you use, the size of the hook, all that kind of thing will change the size, so it might not be exactly on top of, but we can see that what I've just done here looks the same. So I've got my little circle, got my chain coming out here, and I've got my 3 double crochets here. So we're just going to carry on. And our pattern is now telling us to do 2 chains and then 3 double crochets into that center hole, another 2 chains, 3 double crochets into that center hole, 2 chains, and then another 2 double crochets. So I'll just take you through that. So we're going to do 2 chains. We've already done our 3. We're now going to do another 3 double crochets all into that same hole. 1, 2, 3. So that's now created my second corner if we're looking at it the same way as the pattern. So your 2 chains that you're doing are what is creating your corner in this row. So I'm doing another 2 chains. And again, let's find that hole where the stitch marker is. I'm going to do another 3 double crochets. Another 2 chains. And now we're getting close to the end. So I need to do another 2 double crochets into that same hole. For me, that hole's big enough now that I can take that stitch marker out of the center because I can see where I need to go. And I've still got the stitch marker here in the chain. So one of the reasons why I like to keep the stitch marker here is 1, because I find that beginners find it really hard to find this 4 chain. 2, they start working into the space where the chain is, which at this stage we don't want to do that. And 3, they'll start working over the top and start working further on and over the top of that chain because they haven't identified that chain and don't know that they don't need to work over that or shouldn't be working over top of that. So if you get to this stage and you're like, oh, that's very close, how am I going to fit everything else in? Just give it a bit of an adjustment to give yourself some space. And now I'm going to do my last 2 double crochets. Here. So let's just put that on top of my pattern or next to my pattern. So you can see there that I've created my 4 corners. If we look at it side by side, we've now worked over the center. We've got our 4 chains here, 3 double crochets here, 2 chains here, 3 double crochets here, 2 chains here, 3 double crochets here, 2 chains here, and then 2 double crochets at the end. So when we're creating that 4 chains, which counts as a DC and 2 chains, we're actually effectively kind of working the third of the cluster, the third DC of the cluster. Don't worry if that doesn't make sense. Just kind of take it in and it'll start to make sense eventually. So we're kind of, usually we would do 1, 2, 3 DCs, but we've actually started on this third DC in the corner there. So that's why we're creating 2 DCs and now we're going to attach those together. Oops. Okay. So the next thing our pattern is showing us is we've got a slip stitch here and a slip stitch here. So the slip stitch here, you might be thinking, well, where does that go? So you've got a couple of choices. You can either put it in this chain, which is the second from the top, or you can put this chain, which is the second from the bottom. Now, personally, I suggest that you put it in the second from the bottom. And the reason for that is that we want all of these corners to be the same. And you can see that all these corners have 2 chains in them. So we want to make sure that we keep the top 2 chains available for that corner. So I'm going to look at my chain. I'm going to count 1, 2. That's my second chain from the bottom. That's where I'm going to put my first slip stitch. And that now joins our 3 DCs together because those first 2 chains counted as a DC. I'm now going to do my second slip stitch, and it's just going to go straight into that big hole, or what we would call a chain space, because we've created a space using chains. And I'm just going to yarn over and pull through. And you may be thinking, well, why do we need to do that again? The first one joined the round. The second one has moved our yarn, because if we stayed here, we would start creating our next row over here, but we want it to come out here. So that's our first row done. We're now going to move on to row 2, and again all of our rows start the same way with the 4 chains. So I can take that slip stitch out now. Sorry, that stitch marker. 1, 2, 3, 4. I'm going to put my stitch marker back in because I want to make sure I don't lose those 4 chains. Now what does our pattern say? Now our pattern is saying, hey, I want you to put 3 double crochets into the space that we created below. So the space that we created below is there. That's where we did our slip stitch and where our 4 chains are coming out of, and we're going to do 3 double crochets into there. 1, 2, 3. So that's very similar to how we started. Here's where things start going a little bit different. We're now going to do a single chain, and then into the next corner we're going to do 3 double crochets, 2 chains, and 3 double crochets into that chain space. So we're doing 1 chain. Make sure you come over to this next chain space, so it should be the next hole. And we're going to do 3 double crochets. Then the 2 chains, and this is where people tend to go wrong because their instinct is to go into this next big hole. We're not going to do that though. We need to create our corner. So we need to put the next 3 double crochets into that same chain space. So see how putting 3 double crochets, then 2 chains and 3 double crochets has now created this corner, and that's what we wanted to do. So if we're looking at the pattern, this is what we've just done. We're doing 4 chains, 3 double crochets, single chain, 3 double crochets, two chains and 3 double crochets. So we've created our first proper corner there. So we're going to carry on, and you can see in the pattern that we're basically following the same sequence. So it's single crochet, 3 double crochets, 2 chains. Did I say chain or crochet? Can't remember. That's a chain, 3 double crochets, 2 chains, 3 double crochets, chain, 3 double crochets, 2 chains, 3 double crochets, chain, and then at the end we're doing 2 double crochets into that space where we started. So we've got our first corner, we're going to do a chain, we're going to find our second corner in the row below, we're doing 3 double crochets, 1, 2, 3, doing 2 chains. That's where we're at now. Now we're going to do another 3 double crochets into that same space. We're not going on to the next space yet. So if it doesn't look like a corner by the time you've done these 6 double crochets, then stop there. Don't keep going. Try and work out what's gone on. Potentially what you could have done, you might have gone into the next one, and so you're going to start seeing more of a round shape than a square shape. But we've got to create that corner. So the corner after those, you've done those 3, 2, 3, that's what it should look like. So let's do the next one, chain. Now we're going to do 3 double crochet, 1, 2, 3. Oh, I'm getting attacked by a yarn monster. Hold on. Okay, we're back. We survived. Okay, so we're going to do our 2 chains and our 3 double crochets. And again, these are all going into that same chain space of the row below. So see how we've done 3 and then 2 chains and then 3, and we've got a corner. Now we're coming up to the last bit. So we've got our chain. And again, this is where things go a little bit wonky. So this is why we've got our stitch marker in our chain 4. We want to make sure, A, we don't go into that space there. That's wrong. And we want to make sure we don't work over top of that chain and lose it. So there's basically just this very small patch just here, and that's where we're putting our last two double crochets. 1, 2. So see how I have not worked over top of my chain. I haven't worked into this space because that's not where we're working for this round. And I've now got my square. So if we compare that to the pattern, this is the end of row 2. Now, obviously, my stitches are quite tight, so it's not quite fitting, but that's okay. It's not necessarily going to fit because I haven't done exactly the right stitch, the right hook size and yarn, but that's okay. It's pretty close. And you can see underneath, the symbol pattern looks similar to what our actual stitches look like. That's why I quite like symbol patterns. So if you're feeling adventurous, finding a symbol pattern is quite fun to do if you're a visual person like me. But if you're a person who prefers text, then obviously there is a text version or a written version of the pattern as well. Okay, let's finish off that row, and you'll see that again we've got the 2 slip stitches. So again, I'm going to find that second slip stitch from the bottom, second chain from the bottom, sorry, and do a slip stitch into it. And now I am going to go into this space for the last slip stitch. We can take that stitch marker out. Now we're going to move on to row 3. Things start to change a little bit again after row 3, but if you can get your head around row 3, then things in row 4 and row 5 will make a bit more sense, hopefully. So we're doing 1, 2, 3, 4 chains again, 1, 2, 3, 4, and we're doing 3 double crochet into that same space. 1, 2, 3. And I'm just going to put that stitch marker at the top of that chain again, so you remember to do that. So now we've done this bit here. We're going to do a chain, and now we're going to do 3 double crochet into that single chain space that we created before. So this is just one single cluster of stitches. So this is actually called a granny cluster when you put 3 double crochets together like this. So something to kind of keep remembering is that you're always doing 6 double crochets into a corner, and the chains of course, to create a corner. But when we're going down the sides, we're just doing a single cluster of 3. So always keep thinking, am I creating a corner or am I doing the side of the square? So we're going to do our chain, and that's the chain that we created in the row below. So this is where we're going to do our granny cluster, or our 3 double crochets. 1, 2, 3. Now I'm going to do another chain, and now I'm going to create my corner. So potentially a designer could say, do the corner sequence, and they might not say that it's 3 double crochets, 2 chains, and then 3 double crochets. They might go, well, here's a whole range of stitches that I'm going to put together, and I'm going to call it the granny square corner. So So create your granny square corner, and then that's what you do. We've created a corner. Now we're doing a chain, and again we're just going to put one cluster in here, or 3 double crochets. Now going to do a single crochet, and we're going to create another corner. So we're going to do 3 double crochets, 2 chains, and 3 double crochets all into that same space. So again, because we're creating a corner, oh, I'm getting attacked by the yarn monster again. We want to make sure we're getting this square shape. So our chains and our DCs all into that same space help create that shape. So just remember, are you working on a corner or are you working on the side, which we're now working on the side. We've done a chain. We're now doing 3 double crochets. We're doing another chain. We're now finding our corner, doing 3 double crochets, 2 chains, 3 double crochets, oops, the yarn slipped out of my hand. See how we've created that corner? Now we're on to our last bit, so I'm going to do a single crochet, my 3 double crochet cluster, or a granny square cluster, or just a granny cluster. Okay, so we're doing a chain, and again we're getting to the end now, so we've got the chain that we started with, our 4 chains, and we have to do our last 2 double crochets just over top of that slip stitch that we created at the beginning, or when we were joining. So 1, 2. So you can see how when I say that our chain at the beginning is kind of halfway through a corner. So we've done 1, 2, and then that counts as our 3rd one. So we're going to do our join. And actually what we're going to do here, now that we've done 3 rows, we can see how that looks on here. And you can see, so you can see how if the sizing isn't quite right, that the more you do a project, the more the gap is between where your project sits. So that's an even bigger gap, and when I get to here, it's going to probably sit down lower. Again, that's just showing you how the gauge and how I crochet compared to the pattern might be a little bit different, and how it can kind of compound throughout a project to make something either too big or too small. Anyway, off topic. So we're going to do our join, and we're going to join a different color for those who are feeling a bit adventurous. If you're not, that's okay. You can come back and try it another time. And you can just keep going with the color that you have. We're basically following the same kind of sequence that we have already. So I've now got my other color. Hopefully it won't be too hard to see the stitches. Let me just pull that away. So I'm going to show you a couple of different things here. Because people are always saying, oh, just show us how to do a color change. It's like, well, my answer to everything is it depends, because it depends on the project you're doing, whether you're working in the round, whether you're working in row by row, whether you're doing amigurumi, whether you're doing corner to corner. Like, there are so many different color changing techniques. But for this one, I just want to show you the standard way that I've seen a lot of people do it. And so they'd do this first slip stitch with the same color, and then with the second one, they'd do the color change. So if let's just take that out. So to do the color change in the standard way, I would do my second slip stitch. So I'd go into that hole. I'm going to yarn over with my old color, but then I'm also going to grab a loop with my new color. And now I'm going to pull that through all of those. And let me just do the first little bit, and I just want to show you something. So if we do 1, 2, 3, 4, and if I do my 3 double crochets, 2, 3. So this is essentially fine. However, you can see that my old color is going over the top of my new color, which means it's not a very clean color change. You're always going to have like this little, what I would call a lip in there. It's this one here. So what I do to fix that is I actually do my color change slightly earlier. So let's take that out. So we're going to do our first slip stitch, and we're going to do a color change on this one. So we're going to go into that stitch. We're going to yarn over with our old color. We're going to grab a loop with our new color, and then we're just going to pull that through both. And then I'm going to do my second slip stitch. And when I'm doing my slip stitch, I want to make sure I've got the tails of my yarn yarned over as well as my working yarn, and that just helps solidify that. So when we finish this slip stitch, you can see that it's kind of sitting a little bit weird. Don't worry about that, because we're about to work over top of it, and so that will disappear. Let me just get that ready. So we're going to do our 1, 2, 3, 4, and let's just do our first 1, 2, 3, and again I've been working over those the tails of the yarn. That's just to kind of lock that in there. So if we have a look at this now, see how we don't have a lip of the old color coming into here, so it's a much nicer color change, and it's also the same on the back. So if we're using a granny square and we are seeing both sides, we want to make sure both sides look pretty good. So let's carry on with our pattern. We're now going to carry on with our red, which hopefully won't be too hard for you to see. We're going to carry on with row 4. So we've already done our 4 chains and 1, 2, 3. Let's put a stitch marker at the top of that chain, just to keep that chain highlighted. We're now going to do a chain, 3 double crochets, a chain, 3 double crochets, a chain, and then our corner sequence. And then we're going to follow that around. So we're doing a chain, we're on our side, so we're just doing 1 cluster or 3 double crochets, 1, 2, 3, doing another chain, and again we're still on the side, so we're going to do 3 DC cluster, 3 double crochets, same thing. We're now going to head into our corner. So before we do that, we want to do a chain, and then we're doing our corner sequence, which is our 3 double crochets, 1, 2, 3, with our 2 chains and our 3 double crochets. Okay, so if we're comparing that, let's just zoom out a little. We're comparing that with our pattern. We've just completed all of that. And so now you can see that the sequence is the same. Chain, 3 double crochets, chain, 3 double crochets, chain, corner, chain, 3 double crochets, chain, 3 double crochets, chain, corner, chain, 3 double crochets, chain, 3 double crochets, chain, and then we're getting to our end. So let's do all that together. So we're doing a chain, we're on the side, so we're just doing 3 double crochets or 1 cluster. We're doing a chain, we're still on the side, so we're creating 3 double crochets or a cluster. Now we're going to go into our corner, so see where we've come from, where we're going to. So we're going to do a chain before our corner sequence. So we're going to do 1, 2, 3 double crochets and 2 chains, and then in that same space 1, 2, 3 double crochets. So that's our corner sequence. So you can see we've now done what was the top and a side, and we've done another corner. We're about to go on this side and complete it down. So again, just remember, if we're trying to create that square shape, we must have 2 lots of these clusters in the corner. And I do keep repeating myself because that does seem to be a big place where people go wrong. So just think of it going, okay, I'm still going down the side, so I need a single cluster or 3 double crochets. So that's a cluster. Now I need to do another chain. So we've done our chain, going to do another cluster here because we're still on the side and we're still creating a side. And now we're about to go into our corner. I'm going to do our corner sequence. So I've done my chain. Now I'm going to do my corner sequence, which is 3 double crochets, 2 chains, and 3 double crochets. Oops. And we're going to finish off this last one, or last side, that's what I'm trying to say. Right, so I've done my chain. I'm now going to do my 3 double crochets, or my cluster, my chain, my 3 double crochets, and now we're getting right to the end. So we're going to do a chain, and now I have to do that little weird 2 double crochets in one spot. And you can see that my chain has kind of just adjusted itself a bit, so I'm just going to pull that so that the colours aren't showing. And again, I'm going to do, so this is a little bit harder to see my chains, but I've got 1, 2. I'm going to go into that chain. I'm going to do another colour change just so that we can practice that. Oops, 1, 2. So I'm pulling my old colour over, and I'm going to bring up, let's just bring back the colour that I had before. So someone asked me last night, oh, so how would you do that? So it kind of depends on how you like to do things and what you're going to be doing with the project. So in this instance, I'm going to assume that I'm not going to be seeing the back. I might decide that I'm going to attach this granny square to a tote bag, so I'm not going to see the back, so I don't care if it's not quite right on the back. If I did care, then I would probably cut that off and weave it in and start again with that same colour. But in this instance, I'm just going to pull it up and pull that through. So you can see if I look at the back, this is why I wouldn't want the back showing, because that's going to look pretty gross. But for the instances, I just want to kind of show you how you can just pull it up if you want to, and it's your decision about whether it's suitable for the particular project or not. So I've done my first slip stitch. I'm now going to do my second slip stitch, and again you can see that that's kind of come across a bit. So let's do our 1, 2, 3, 4 chains, put our stitch marker in there if you're a beginner, just so that that's always highlighted to us. And now I'm going to do my 3 double crochets. 1, 2, 3. We just created our corner. So we're now going into row 5. So you'll see here, it's very similar to row 4, except we've got 3 lots of clusters, or 3 double crochets 3 times. 1, 2, 3. And so essentially, like, you can basically from here just keep going and going and going until you've got a project that's large enough. Like, you may want a lap rug and you may go, okay, I'm just going to keep going until it's as big as I want it to be. And you just keep adding in to each row. So if I was going to do row 6, then my what I would call a cluster, you'd then have 1, 2, 3, 4 clusters going into this space here. And you'd still keep doing your corner sequences exactly the same. You're basically just adding on more to the sides. Hopefully that makes sense. If it doesn't, don't worry, you can ignore that for now and always come back to it later. I'm just going to deal with my yarn monster here again. Okay, so we're ready to carry on with our final row for this particular granny square. So we're doing our chain, we're doing our first cluster, or 3 double crochets, 1, 2, 3. We're doing a chain, doing our next cluster, 1, 2, 3, doing a chain, doing our next cluster, 3 double crochets, 1, 2, 3. You see how we've now got, so in the row below we just had 2 clusters, we've now got 3 clusters. If we did another row, that would be 4 clusters. I'm now going to go into my corner, so I'm going to do my corner sequence. So I've done a chain, I'm going to do 1, 2, 3, 2 chains, 1, 2, 3. And I've created my corner. Just give that a little bit of a feel. Let's just zoom out a little bit more. It's starting to get bigger. So you can see we've created our first side, which if we were looking at our pattern, it would look like this. But obviously we just keep going and turning it as we go. When I say turn, I don't mean front to back. I just mean as we go around. So now we're going to do our next side. Single chain, a cluster or 3 double crochets. 1, 2, 3. That stitch marker is making a whole lot of noise. Our next cluster, so we do a chain, our next cluster, another chain, our next cluster, now we're going to do our chain and we're going to do our corner sequence. 1, 2, 3 double crochets, 2 chains, and another 3 double crochets into that same space. Oops. Let's see how it's a nice corner. Going to do our next side, chain, cluster, which is made up of 3 double crochets, chain, cluster, chain, another cluster, now we're going into our next corner. I'm going to go a chain, find our corner, going to do 3, oops, double crochet, got all tangled, 3 double crochet, 1, 2, 3, 2 chains, another 3 double crochet, corner, we're on to our last side. Okay, so let's do a chain, doing a 3DC cluster. It's always, I called it slightly different things every time just to get you familiar with different ways that it's called. So another 3DC cluster, or just a cluster, or 3 double crochets, chain, another cluster. Now we're getting to that end bit. So see how we've pretty much done everything. And if we're looking at it the same way as the pattern, this is how we've come across this way. And now we're just going to do our last join. So we're going to go 1, 2, finding that second chain from the bottom, yarn over, pull through. And now I'm going to do, sorry, my cat is asking me to help, our second slip stitch. And now to end that, I can just pull that loop up and find some scissors. Give me a minute while I find some scissors. Okay, so I've pulled up a loop, and you basically want to have the loop long enough so that you've got a string, or you've got yarn left at the end to weave in. So I'm just cutting that, and then I grab the working yarn and I can just pull that back through, and that leaves us a tail of yarn to weave in. So I did do a demonstration of weaving in during the beginner class, but since this is a little bit different, I'm going to make that, and let's just cut off my other colour as well, give that a bit. I'll just show you in here just one way of doing, well, yeah, how we would do weaving in when we're looking at this. So I would basically come back down the chain or the stitch that I've just been working in. Again, I'm just holding the work while I pull that yarn through because I don't want it to pucker the work. And then I'm just going to come through under all of these stitches here. Just pull that through. And this is where I might do make sure I'm going over one of the threads that I've come under, just to lock that in. Let's just go back this way. And because I've still got a bit of yarn left, I might just come down here a little bit. Again, just always holding the work so it doesn't pucker, and just give it a little bit of an adjustment as you go. And I'm just going to lock it in one more time here. So each time when I say I'm locking it in, it means that I've gone one way. I'm basically coming back on myself, but I don't go back exactly the same way. I always make sure I've gone over top of another thread. And now I'm just going to pull that out. Just give that a bit of an adjustment, and then when we go to get our scissors, this is where I do pull it a little bit, so I'm cutting right at the edge, and then again just give it a bit of an adjustment, and now you can't see where that yarn went. So obviously there's another couple of another 3 bits of yarn I need to weave in, but otherwise that is done. I hope that has helped you do your granny square, and that it makes sense that we're always concentrating on these corners and making sure that we're doing the sequence all in the same hole. And yeah, go ahead and practice these because you'll find that they get easier and easier. And because we're always working into chain spaces, it's really easy to find where you're working into next. Enjoy!